Here is a thought to kick off with. Charlie Munger once said, it's kind of fun to sit there and outthink people who are way smarter than you are because you have trained yourself to be more objective and more multidisciplinary. Think about it. What if the true edge in business and investing isn't just about being smarter, but about seeing the world through a more informed, multidisciplinary lens? Imagine being able to cut through the noise, see the patterns others miss, and make decisions with the kind of clarity that only comes from deep, integrated thinking. In today's world, where new technologies emerge daily and trends shift overnight, understanding how to think better, not just faster, could be the difference between success and failure. Munger challenges with a simple yet profound statement. Invert, always invert. You can read more about it in Poor Charlie's Almanack on page 79. It's this ability to look at problems from different angles, to challenge assumptions, and to see what others overlook that has made him a master in both business and life. Today, the focus is on Poor Charlie's Almanack, a book that captures the essence of Charlie Munger's philosophy and the mental models that have made him a cornerstone of Berkshire Hathaway's success. This isn't just a book about investing. It's about how to approach life with a sense of rationality, curiosity, and, as Munger puts it on page 119, worldly wisdom. Charlie Munger, for those unfamiliar, was Warren Buffett's right-hand man, a thinker who, despite staying out of the limelight, has profoundly shaped the investment philosophy that made Berkshire Hathaway a powerhouse. His thinking isn't about quick wins or chasing trends. As he once said, all I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. It's about page 165 in the book. It's a statement that reflects his deep focus on avoiding pitfalls, a mindset that every entrepreneur and investor should adopt. But why should this matter to venture capitalists, deep tech entrepreneurs, and you, the listener? If the goal is to navigate the complexities of today's business landscape, Poor Charlie's Almanack offers a way to think differently, a way to filter out the noise and focus on what truly matters. Munger emphasizes the big money is not in the buying and selling, but in the waiting. This concept holds particular significance in a world that often prioritizes speed over patience. Munger's wisdom teaches that sometimes the best move is to wait for the right opportunity instead of rushing in. It's not just about making good decisions, it's about avoiding the bad ones. Munger's insights act like a lighthouse, guiding through the fog of uncertainty that often surrounds major decisions in business. And today's episode will break down how to apply these principles directly into the ventures at hand, ensuring it's not just about surviving, but thriving in a competitive market. So what's on the agenda for today? This episode isn't just a summary of Poor Charlie's Almanack, it's an exploration of the ideas that matter most for entrepreneurs and investors. Expect actionable coaching tips, insights into Munger's core principles, and how they can be integrated into strategic decision-making. From mastering mental models to understanding the psychology behind human misjudgment, the focus is on extracting principles that can transform an approach to business. For example, Munger's belief that it's remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent highlights the power of avoiding mistakes rather than chasing perfection. Patience and rationality, often underestimated in both investing and entrepreneurship, emerge as powerful tools in building enduring success. By the end of this episode, the aim is to leave you with not just a new perspective, but practical tools ready for immediate use. Whether you are just starting out in the world of investing or already are a seasoned entrepreneur refining their strategy, these lessons will challenge the way things are seen and help uncover opportunities and risks hidden in plain sight. The goal is to think like a grandmaster, anticipating the next several moves in any business journey. And as Munger would say, it's kind of fun to outthink people who are way smarter than you are. Page 59, Poor Charlie's Almanack. So gear up to elevate the game. But before we dive into the actionable insights, it's worth taking a moment to understand the mind behind these ideas. Why does Charlie Munger's perspective matter today, and what makes it unique? Let's explore his journey, the wisdom he shared over the years, and how his approach can help become a better thinker, investor, and entrepreneur. Charlie Munger, born Charles Thomas Munger on January the 1st, 1924 in Omaha, Nebraska, embodies the classic Midwestern values that have defined some of America's most notable figures, from Will Rogers to Warren Buffett. Growing up in America's heartland, Munger developed an early sense of curiosity and a knack for negotiation. As a child, he even traded hamsters with other kids, always managing to negotiate his way to a better deal. Most of the quotes in these sections are from page 29 onwards in the book Poor Charlie's Almanack. These early traits foreshadowed a lifelong pursuit of knowledge and disciplined thinking. Munger's early education at Central High School in Omaha provided a foundation in classical studies, but it was his time at Harvard Law School that redefined his analytical skills. He graduated magna cum laude in 1948 among only 12 students in a class of 335 to achieve this distinction. But Charlie's journey took a pivotal turn when he returned to Omaha after the passing of his father to administer the estate. It was during this time that he met Warren Buffett at a dinner organized by mutual friends. The two quickly bonded over a shared passion for business, finance, and history. The partnership wasn't built on formal agreements or contracts, just a handshake and a mutual understanding of the value of trust and one's word. This partnership would become legendary, with Munger's focus on long-term thinking and Buffett's knack for value investing blending into a philosophy that reshaped the investment landscape. Munger's early law career and his co-founding of an investment partnership with Jack Wheeler further showcased his strategic mindset and ability to operate with low overheads and high efficiency, laying the groundwork for his future success. Beyond his business acumen, Munger is a man of deep values. He often speaks of the importance of avoiding envy and resentment, two emotions he believes are toxic to both personal happiness and professional success. In Poor Charlie's Almanack, he notes, envy, of course, joins chemicals in winning some sort of quantity prize for causing misery. If you wish to retain the contribution of envy to misery, I recommend that you never read any of the biographies of that good Christian Samuel Johnson. You find it on page 76 in the book. Munger's commitment to intellectual honesty and lifelong learning is a theme that runs throughout his life and work. His approach to building Berkshire Hathaway alongside Buffett wasn't just about financial returns. It was about creating a seamless web of deserved trust with partners, employees, and shareholders alike. His values extend beyond business. He's been a strong advocate for causes like Planned Parenthood and environmental sustainability, emphasizing the importance of leaving a better world for future generations. Charlie Munger's influence reaches far beyond the boardrooms of Berkshire Hathaway. His teachings have become essential reading for those seeking to understand how to think critically and act wisely in both business and life. His approach is not about chasing trends or flashy investments, but about mastering the mental models that govern the world, which he has summarized with precision and wit throughout his talks and writings. For those in venture capital and entrepreneurship, Munger's legacy serves as a reminder that success isn't about following the crowd, but about thinking independently. As he once put it, all I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. It's a statement that captures his philosophy of avoiding risks and focusing on fundamentals, an approach that has become a guiding light for investors and business leaders alike for decades. With this background, it becomes clear why Munger's wisdom has resonated so deeply with generations of investors and entrepreneurs. His story is not just about success, but about the way he achieved it through discipline, a focus on continuous learning, and a deep understanding of human nature. Now, let's dive into some of the key ideas from Poor Charlie's Almanack that can be applied to building and scaling businesses in today's competitive landscape. Poor Charlie's Almanack, the essential wit and wisdom of Charles T. Munger. This book is a rich collection of insights from Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. The book is not just a compilation of Munger's speeches and thoughts, it's a deep dive into his approach to life, investing, and decision-making. Munger's wisdom, accumulated over nearly a century, is presented through his characteristic blend of humor, bluntness, and deep understanding of human nature. The book is structured into three main parts. The first one is biographical insights. The opening chapters provide a detailed portrait of Munger's life, tracing his roots from Omaha, Nebraska, through his education and early career in law, to his influential partnership with Warren Buffett. It also includes anecdotes and reflections from Munger's family, offering a more personal glimpse into the man behind the wisdom. The second section is talks and speeches. The core of the book consists of 11 speeches given by Munger between 1986 and 2005. These talks cover a wide range of topics from investment principles and business strategies to the psychology of human misjudgment. Each talk is backed with Munger's wit, practical advice, and a consistent emphasis on thinking critically and avoiding common cognitive biases. And the last section in the book is about reflections and Q&A sessions. Many of the talks are followed by reflections and highlights from audience Q&A sessions where Munger addresses specific questions, offering more insights that often expand on the ideas presented in his speeches. These sections allow readers to see how Munger applies his principles to real-world scenarios and emphasizes the importance of lifelong learning and adapting to change. What are the main concepts and ideas in the book? The first one is worldly wisdom and inversion thinking. Munger's philosophy centers on the idea of worldly wisdom, the notion that the best decisions come from understanding a wide range of concepts across disciplines. He famously advises, invert, always invert, a principle borrowed from the mathematician Carl Jacobi. Munger believes that many problems can be solved by thinking backwards, asking, what should I avoid doing to reach my goal? Rather than, what should I do? You'll find more about it in the book on page 79. The second part are mental models. A major theme in the book is the use of mental models, frameworks that help simplify complex situations. Munger argues that understanding core models from disciplines like economics, psychology, and biology allows us to see patterns and make better decisions. He stresses that most people are trapped in their narrow fields of expertise, but those who can think across boundaries are better equipped to navigate uncertainty. As Munger puts it, you've got to have models in your head and you've got to array your experience both vicarious and direct, on this latticework of models. You'll find more about it on page 85 in the book. The third part of the principles is the power of long-term thinking. Munger's investment philosophy is closely aligned with Warren Buffett's focus on buying quality businesses and holding them for the long term. He believes in the power of compounding both in financial returns and in building knowledge over time. Munger is known for saying, step by step you get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts. But you build disciplines by preparing for fast spurts. His approach is about making steady progress and being prepared for opportunities when they arise. The fourth main idea in the book is avoiding human misjudgment. One of Munger's most valuable contributions is his deep understanding of cognitive biases and how they lead to poor decision-making. He discusses biases like confirmation bias, social proof, and inconsistency avoidance. For instance, he highlights the dangers of confirmation bias where people seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs and ignore evidence to the contrary. By being aware of these flaws in human judgment, Munger believes that one can make more rational decisions and avoid costly mistakes. The fifth core concept I liked in the book is the importance of integrity and reputation. Munger places a high value on ethical behavior and the importance of maintaining a good reputation. He often stresses the long-term benefits of reliability and trustworthiness in business. He famously remarked, in your own life, what you want to maximize is a seamless web of deserved trust. Munger believes that character and trustworthiness are not just moral virtues, but also strategic advantages in business. You find more about this last concept on page 281 in the book. So why does this book matter for you, the listener, especially for VCs and entrepreneurs? Poor Charlie's Almanack is a treasure trove of wisdom for these groups. It's not just about investing, it's about developing a mindset that values critical thinking, understanding human behavior, and making decisions that stand the test of time. For those looking to build companies or evaluate investments, Munger's lessons on avoiding common mistakes and focusing on long-term value are incredibly relevant. His emphasis on a multidisciplinary approach is especially pertinent for those navigating the complexities of technology and market dynamics. This overview is just the beginning. Munger's insights can be transformative for those who seek to integrate these principles into their own decision-making processes. In the upcoming sections, we will break down each of his key talks, distilling the actionable takeaways that can be applied directly to the challenges faced by entrepreneurs and investors today. In this first section, let's dive into one of Charlie Munger's most powerful tools for problem solving and decision making: inversion thinking. Munger frequently emphasizes this principle, highlighting how thinking backwards can simplify complex problems and reveal potential pitfalls that may otherwise go unnoticed. This method challenges conventional wisdom and encourages a different perspective on challenges, often leading to more effective solutions. Charlie Munger often quotes the algebraist Carl Jacobi on page 79 in the book, "Invert, always invert." It's a simple idea, but it has profound implications for decision-making. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? Inversion thinking suggests asking, what could prevent me from achieving it? It's in principle the worst case in any scenario planning. This backward approach allows entrepreneurs and investors to uncover hidden risks, simplify their thinking, and focus on avoiding major mistakes. For example, during his talk at the Harvard commencement, Munger explains that many problems cannot be solved by moving straight forward, but instead by thinking in reverse. He says on page 165, it's in the nature of things, as Jacobi knew, that many hard problems are best solved only when they are addressed backward. By focusing on what could go wrong, you often find clearer paths to success. Inversion thinking closely aligns with first principle thinking, a method that also emphasizes breaking down problems, but from a different angle. While first principles thinking aims to break complex problems down into their most fundamental truths and rebuild from the ground up, inversion thinking works backwards to identify potential failures before they occur. Munger's inversion approach is particularly valuable for identifying risks, whereas first principles thinking is about constructing new solutions. For example, if you are an entrepreneur developing a new product, first principles would have you question the fundamental design of each component. In contrast, inversion would have you ask, what common mistakes have other startups made in this space and how can we avoid them? As Munger puts it, the first helpful notion is that it is usually best to simplify problems by deciding big no-brainer questions first. This is where these methods meet first principles, break down complexity, and inversion simplifies the risk landscape. Together, they form a powerful framework for critical thinking. For investors, this might mean analyzing what factors could cause a promising business model to fail, while for entrepreneurs, it could involve identifying the weaknesses that could derail a new product. For venture capitalists and deep tech entrepreneurs, inversion thinking is not just a mental exercise, it's a critical tool for assessing business models, market risks, and strategic decisions. It's particularly useful during due diligence, where understanding what could go wrong is as valuable as knowing what could go right. Munger's approach encourages a focus on downside risk, which aligns perfectly with the often uncertain and volatile nature of startup investments. Instead of being overly optimistic, inversion thinking helps to stress test ideas and strategies. As Munger explained in a practical example involving Coca-Cola, solving complex problems often starts with simplifying the big questions first and working backwards from there. He emphasized that avoiding failure is sometimes more important than seeking success directly. Here are a few coaching questions for your reflection. The first one: what potential risks or obstacles could derail your current business strategy? Take a moment to list them and think through how you might avoid or mitigate each one. The second question: if your investment or startup were to fail, what would most likely be the cause? How can you proactively address this issue now before it becomes a problem? And the first question: what assumptions are you making about your market, product, or team? Try to challenge those assumptions by thinking of scenarios where they might not hold true. By adopting both inversion thinking and first principles thinking, you equip yourself with a mental model that not only helps in identifying risks, but also builds resilience and drives innovation. It's about turning complexity into simplicity by focusing on what to avoid and what to build, ensuring a well-rounded strategy for success. Now to the second section: mental models, a multidisciplinary mindset. In business and investing, a common pitfall is to rely solely on one's specialized knowledge, often leading to what Munger calls the man with a hammer syndrome. This is the tendency to see every problem through the lens of a single discipline, like an engineer who tries to solve every challenge with technical tweaks, or a financier who looks only at the numbers. Munger warns that such narrow thinking can be dangerous. He emphasizes on page 85 that they don't have enough models in their heads. So you've got to have models across a fair array of disciplines. This lack of breadth can cause us to miss out on crucial insights that lie outside our primary field of expertise, leading to flawed decisions and missed opportunities. Imagine an investor who only understands finance but knows little about psychology or market behavior. They might be excellent with numbers, but without understanding how human behavior drives market fluctuations, they could be blindsided by emotional reactions like panic selling during a downturn. Munger observed this time and time again, and he knew that those who succeeded were those who could see the bigger picture. On page 88 in the book, he writes, "You might ask, why is that so important?" Well, again, that's a rule of psychology. If you always tell people why, they will understand it better. He understood that the world is interconnected, like John Moore famously said, when we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. Munger's answer to the problem of narrow thinking is to build a latticework of mental models. This means developing a deep, multidisciplinary understanding that draws on knowledge from psychology, economics, biology, engineering, and beyond. He believed that successful decision-making is like playing chess, seeing the whole board rather than focusing on just one piece. Quickly eliminate the big universe of what not to do, follow up with a fluent multidisciplinary attack on what remains, he advised on page 58 in the book. Munger didn't merely study businesses. He studied how everything from Darwinian evolution to engineering redundancy could apply to investment decisions. This broader perspective allowed him to avoid the mistakes that come from viewing problems through a single lens. For VCs and entrepreneurs, this approach is invaluable. In a world where new technologies, shifting consumer behaviors, and economic cycles constantly reshape industries, the ability to integrate insights from diverse fields gives a significant edge. It helps to see not just how a business works today, but how it might evolve or be disrupted tomorrow. To cultivate this multidisciplinary mindset, Munger suggests immersing yourself in different fields of study and regularly asking why. Here are 3 practical questions to help apply Munger's approach. The first one: which disciplines am I currently relying on the most, and where might I be missing insights from other fields? For example, could knowledge from psychology improve your customer engagement strategies? The second set of questions: what are the key models from other industries that could challenge or enhance my current thinking? Think about the compound interest model from mathematics or the redundancy principles used in engineering. And the third part: how often do I step back from the day-to-day and look at the broader ecosystem in which my business operates? Regularly zooming out to see how changes in technology, regulation, or culture could affect your industry can lead to better strategic decisions. By embracing Munger's philosophy of multiple mental models, you can navigate the complexities of business with greater clarity and insight. It's not about mastering every field, but about knowing enough to recognize patterns and make connections that others might miss. The third section revolves around ego and life, mastering envy and emotional management. This section circles around the problem: what are the hidden costs of misaligned people and emotions? In business, the path to success isn't just about strategic decisions or market timing. Often it's about the people you work with and how you manage your own emotions. Charlie Munger believed that having the wrong people in your corner, whether they are partners, investors, or even clients, can derail even the best strategies. Perverse associations are also to be avoided. You particularly want to avoid working directly under somebody you don't admire and don't want to be like. It's dangerous. He says on page 277 in the book. This insight emphasizes how choosing the wrong associates can make your journey much harder than it needs to be. And it's not just about the team. It's about mastering internal battles too. Munger saw envy, resentment, and self-pity as some of the most dangerous mindsets. He warned that these emotions could cloud judgment and lead to disastrous decisions, especially for those at the helm of a company. On page 275, he says, generally speaking, envy, resentment, revenge, and self-pity are disastrous models of thought. Self-pity can get pretty close to paranoia. Paranoia is one of the very hardest things to reverse. For deep tech entrepreneurs and VCs, the ability to keep emotions in check is critical, not only for personal well-being, but for leading a team through challenges. Consider a scenario where a startup founder aligns with investors whose values don't match the long-term vision of the company. The founder might find themselves constantly battling against short-term pressures, diverting focus from building sustainable growth. Munger's wisdom is clear, as he expresses on page 272. You can cause enormous offense by being right in a way that causes somebody else to lose faith in his own discipline or hierarchy. This highlights the tension that arises when values and expectations aren't aligned. And there's the trap of envy. Watching a competitor secure funding, gain media attention, or achieve rapid growth can steer feelings of resentment. This can lead to reactive decisions like chasing trends instead of sticking to your own vision. Munger reminds us that life will deliver its share of terrible blows, unfair blows, but insists that every missed chance in life, however bad, created an opportunity to behave well. You can read more about this philosophy on page 279. It's a call to see adversity as a chance to strengthen character, not as a reason to indulge in destructive emotions. Manga's approach to solving these challenges starts with choosing the right people. For him, it's about aligning with those whose values resonate with your own, much like his relationship with Warren Buffett. A partnership grounded in trust and mutual respect. He likened it to the inversion principle. Instead of asking, how do I succeed with people, ask, what kind of people would most likely lead to failure? By identifying and avoiding those who don't share your core values, you can create a foundation of trust and cohesion in your business. On the emotional front, Manga draws inspiration from the Stoics, particularly Epictetus, who taught that adversity is a chance to show strength and composure. On page 279 in the book, he says, there I think the attitude of Epictetus helps guide one to the right reaction. He thought that every mischance in life, however bad, created an opportunity to behave well. Manga's own version of this advice: focus on your mindset, your skills, and your ability to collaborate rather than dwelling on personal slights or envy. He believed that the best leaders appeal not to reason, but to self-interest. Citing Ben Franklin's wisdom on page 274, if you would persuade, appeal to interest, not to reason. Here are some practical steps and coaching questions for this section. To integrate Munger's lessons into your leadership style and decision-making processes, consider these coaching questions. The first one: who in my circle aligns with my values and who might be causing friction? Reflect on the stakeholders around you, investors, partners, and team members. Are they moving in the same direction or are they pulling you off course? Second one: how can I turn adversity into an opportunity to demonstrate resilience? The next time you face a setback, think about how you can use it to showcase calm leadership and a steady vision. And the third one: am I letting envy or resentment influence my decisions? Challenge yourself to recognize when these emotions arise and shift your focus back to your long-term goals and the principles that guide your actions. By following these steps, you can better navigate the complexities of building a business while keeping your emotions in check. Munger's teachings remind us that while skills and strategy are important, it's often the choices about who you surround yourself with and how you manage your inner world that make the difference between success and failure. Now to the fourth principle, the power of compound interest. In business and investing, the power of compounding can be a game changer. It's not just about compounding money. Charlie Munger views it as a philosophy that extends to learning, relationships, and business strategy. He famously said on page 91 in the book, the very nature of things is that if you get a whole lot of volume through your operation, you get better at processing that volume. This insight applies directly to scaling a company where consistent incremental improvements lead to exponential gains over time. Yet many companies miss out on this compounding effect because they try to do too much at once, chasing every opportunity without focus. Munger's wisdom suggests that this is a critical error as it prevents the depth of focus required for compounding to work its magic. He admired people like Sam Walton, who invented practically nothing but copied everything anybody else ever did that was smart and did it with more fanaticism. It's about refining what works over time rather than constantly reinventing the wheel. Take Apple, for example. When Steve Jobs returned in 1997, he famously narrowed down Apple's bloated product line, cutting everything that wasn't essential. By focusing on a handful of products, he allowed Apple to perfect each one, leading to groundbreaking innovations like the iPhone. This singular focus enabled Apple to build one of the world's most powerful ecosystems, a prime example of what Munger means by the compounding power of focus and scale. In contrast, many companies try to maintain a Bauchladen, a belly full of unrelated products, spreading themselves too thin. Without a clear focus, their efforts don't compound and they fail to build a durable competitive advantage. Munger's insight is clear here on page 91 in the book. Advantages of scale are ungodly important. Doing something complicated in more and more volume enables human beings who are trying to improve and are motivated by the incentives of capitalism to do it more and more effectively. This is true not only for companies, but for individuals as well. The habit of daily incremental improvements, whether in knowledge, skills, or relationships, creates a compounding effect that pays off significantly over time. As Munger puts it, it's kind of fun to sit there and outthink people who are way smarter than you are because you have trained yourself to be more objective and more multidisciplinary. It's the slow, steady accumulation of insights that eventually sets the exceptional apart from the average. Manger's advice is simple but powerful. Focus, improve, and let time do the rest. He believed that businesses and individuals flourish when they hone in on a few key strengths and relentlessly improve. The compounding effect doesn't just apply to financial returns, it applies to skills, relationships, and the value delivered to customers over time. This principle is especially relevant for investors looking for long-term gains. Finding companies with management that understands the balance between innovation and focus is crucial. Munger and Warren Buffett often sought out businesses that were disciplined about sticking to what they did best, like Coca-Cola and See's Candies. These were companies that leveraged the brand and expertise, continually refining their offerings and expanding their reach. For entrepreneurs, the message is to keep iterating and refining. Even if an initial product or idea doesn't take off immediately, the process of learning, adapting, and improving creates a momentum that eventually leads to success. It's about creating this flywheel effect where each incremental gain builds upon the last. Munger once described this process by saying, just doing something complicated in more and more volume enables human beings to do it more and more efficiently. To harness the power of compounding in your business or investment strategy, consider these coaching questions. The first one, where can I focus my efforts to achieve the greatest compounding effect? Identify one or two areas in your business or personal growth where steady incremental improvement could create exponential gains over time. The second one, am I spreading myself or my business too thin? Evaluate if you are trying to do too many things at once. Would a more focused approach lead to greater expertise and better results? The third one, how can I build a culture of continuous improvement? Whether in your team or your own habits, think about what small changes you can make daily that will add up over time. By embracing these principles, you can create a flywheel effect that drives exponential growth. As Munger's teachings remind us, the key to long-term success often lies not in great leaps, but in the quiet, persistent power of compounding. And here we are in the middle of the podcast with section number 5, biases and cognitive fallacies. The big problem here is that the human mind can trap you in cognitive biases in your decision making. Charlie Munger often warned about the dangers of cognitive biases in decision making. Whether you are a venture capitalist evaluating startups or an entrepreneur navigating product development, biases can easily lead to flawed judgment. Munger emphasized that understanding and mitigating these biases is crucial for sound decision making in business. He once famously said on page 183 in the book, to a man with only a hammer, every problem tends to look pretty much like a nail. This is known as the man with a hammer tendency, where individuals rely too heavily on familiar tools or ideas, even when they are not the best fit for the problem. Biases can easily creep into business decisions, leading to costly mistakes. For instance, VCs may become over-optimistic or fall in love with certain startups, ignoring red flags. Entrepreneurs may be misled by confirmation bias, where they focus only on data that supports their preconceived notions while disregarding contrary evidence. Munger explained how even smart, well-intentioned people can fall prey to these biases, which is why it's essential to develop systems that can counteract them. He elaborated on confirmation bias by referencing Charles Darwin, who actively sought out evidence that contradicted his hypothesis, knowing that human nature tends to confirm what it already believes. The quote in the book on page 308. The opposite of what Darwin did is now called confirmation bias. Darwin's practice came from his acute recognition of man's natural cognitive faults. Munger outlined several key cognitive biases that can lead to poor decision-making, particularly in high-stakes environments like venture capital or entrepreneurship. Here are three of the most harmful ones, along with practical solutions for overcoming them. The first one is the man with a hammer tendency. Here is the bias. This bias refers to the tendency to approach problems using familiar tools or solutions, even if they aren't the most suitable for the current situation. Munger warned that over-reliance on a single framework leads to tunnel vision, reducing innovation and adaptability. To counter this, Munger recommended adopting a multidisciplinary mindset. By drawing from diverse fields such as psychology, economics, and engineering, decision makers can approach problems from multiple angles and avoid being trapped by one-dimensional thinking. As he put it on page 85, you've got to have models across a fair array of disciplines. The second bias, confirmation bias. This involves focusing only on information that confirms pre-existing beliefs while ignoring data that contradicts them. In venture capital, this might mean favoring startups that align with your worldview while missing valuable contrarian insights. For entrepreneurs, it could lead to overlooking critical market signals. What's the solution? Munger highlighted the importance of deliberately seeking out disconfirming evidence, as Darwin did. On an organizational level, this can be institutionalized through procedures that require decision makers to rigorously test their assumptions and consider alternative viewpoints. For instance, creating a devil's advocate role in decision-making processes can help challenge prevailing views and prevent groupthink. The third bias, incentive cost bias. This one occurs when people's judgments are swayed by their own self-interest or the incentives they are offered. As Munger explained, fear professional advice when it is especially good for the advisor, on page 297. Incentives can cloud judgment and cause professionals to act in ways that benefit themselves, even at the expense of their clients or businesses. What's the solution? The key to avoiding this bias is designing incentive structures that align with long-term goals rather than short-term gains. Munger also advised learning the basic elements of your advisor's trade so you can critically evaluate their advice. This can be implemented organizationally by making sure compensation structures are designed to reward sustainable success, not quick wins. On a personal level, remain vigilant and always double-check advice that aligns too perfectly with the advisor's own interests. To help you and your organization combat these cognitive biases, consider the following coaching questions. How am I ensuring that my decisions are based on objective evidence rather than preconceived notions? Consider implementing systems like checklists or assigning a devil's advocate role to rigorously test assumptions. Second question, Am I approaching problems from a multidisciplinary perspective, or am I relying too heavily on one tool or framework? Diversify your decision-making process by learning from different fields and actively seeking out diverse opinions. And the third set, are the incentives in my business or team encouraging the right behavior? Ensure that your reward systems are designed to promote long-term success, not just short-term gains. By understanding and mitigating cognitive biases, you can avoid costly mistakes and make better, more informed decisions. As Munger wisely observed, it is not greed that drives the world, but envy, page 312. Recognizing these biases and designing systems to overcome them will lead to better judgment and more successful outcomes in both your business and your life. And here we are, chapter number 6, the importance of character and culture. The problem here is that the role of character and culture is significant for creating long-term success. And Charlie Munger consistently emphasized that the success of any business or investment depends not only on technical skills or strategy, but on the character of the people involved. For Munger and Buffett, character and integrity were essential qualities in the entrepreneurs they backed and the employees they hired. Their Midwestern roots, embodying values like honesty, reliability, and a strong work ethic, guided their decision-making. Munger once remarked, by and large, we have chosen people we admire enormously to have the power beneath us. It's easy for us to get along with them on average because we love and admire them. Page 138 in the book. Character and culture aren't just abstract ideas. They are the foundation for sustainable success. For venture capitalists, backing founders without a solid ethical foundation can lead to short-term gains, but long-term pain. For entrepreneurs, building a company culture that does not align with long-term goals creates friction, lowers morale, and can ultimately lead to failure. Munger highlighted this when he said, I try to get rid of people who always confidently answer questions about which they don't have any real knowledge. To me, they're like the bee dancing its incoherent dance. They're just screwing up the hive. Page 147 in the book. In the world of startups and investments, aligning the values of the team with the vision of the company is critical. Without this alignment, friction grows, decision-making becomes chaotic, and the long-term potential of the company suffers. As Munger once advised, sell your services once in a while to an unreasonable blowhard if that's what you must do to feed your family. But run your own life like Grant McFadden. If you want to know more about this story, check the book on page 147. This illustrates Munger's deep commitment to living and working with integrity, even when external pressures tempt otherwise. For Munger, building a culture of integrity is not just a moral imperative, it's a practical one. He and Buffett invested in entrepreneurs whose character they could trust, knowing that businesses built on shaky ethical ground would crumble under pressure. For venture capitalists, this means looking beyond flashy metrics and market trends to assess the true character of the founders they back. Are they honest? Do they show humility? Do they put the long-term health of the business before short-term gains? For entrepreneurs, creating a culture that reflects their core values is essential for avoiding internal friction and maintaining long-term focus. Munger's lesson here is clear. Hiring for skills without assessing character is a mistake. To the extent you have learned it so well that you have enough confidence to intervene where it takes a little courage, you can add great value. And to the extent that you can prevent or stop some asininity that would otherwise destroy a firm, your client, or something that you care about, you can add great value. It's a quote from the book, page 148. Munger and Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway by carefully selecting employees and business partners who shared their Midwestern values of humility, trustworthiness, and hard work. This culture became the bedrock of their long-term success. For both VCs and entrepreneurs, having clarity over core values and aligning team building with those values can reduce friction and foster an environment where innovation and growth can thrive. To ensure that you are building a culture that reflects your values and supports long-term success, consider these coaching questions. Are the people you're backing or hiring aligned with your core values and core mission? When evaluating founders or potential employees, don't just assess their skills or track records. Consider whether they share your ethical principles and long-term vision. Question number 2. Is your company's culture promoting the values you believe in, or is there misalignment? Take a hard look at the culture of your organization. If there is misalignment between values and practices, friction and inefficiency will follow. The third one, do you have the courage to walk away from partnerships or hires that don't reflect your values, even if they seem promising on paper? Munger's advice was clear. Grant McFadden treats his employees right, his customers right, and his problems right. As you go through life, run your own life like Grant McFadden. Check the story in the book on page 147. The ability to walk away from potential partners who don't align with your values will save you from much bigger problems down the line. The most successful investors and entrepreneurs understand that character is not just a nice to have, it's essential for long-term success. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett's business empire was built on trust, integrity, and long-term thinking. For venture capitalists, it's crucial to back founders who share these values, and for entrepreneurs, fostering a culture that prioritizes ethics will not only drive sustainable growth, but also create a company where people want to stay and contribute. In Manger's own words, nobody expects you to know everything about everything. But if you become a person who thinks correctly, you can add great value. Leading with character and aligning your culture with your values creates a foundation that not only survives, but thrives through the inevitable challenges of business. Section number 7, Charlie Munger's investment checklist. What's the problem here? Many seek investment checklists, but few truly apply them. In the world of investing, everyone wants a clear, straightforward checklist that will lead to success. But what separates the average investor from those who excel, like Charlie Munger, is not just having a checklist, but truly understanding and applying it. Munger's investment principles aren't about ticking boxes. They're about cultivating a mindset that values preparation, discipline, and long-term thinking. In Poor Charlie's Almanack, Munger offers a comprehensive investment checklist that is both practical and philosophical. His approach is rooted in deep thinking, patience, and a relentless focus on integrity and rationality. Most investors fall into the trap of overcomplicating things or relying on superficial data. Munger, however, focuses on simplicity and clarity. As he famously said, we have 3 baskets for investing. Yes, no, and too tough to understand. You find this in Poor Charlie's Almanack on page 59. By staying within his circle of competence and avoiding businesses that are too complex or unpredictable, Munger narrows his focus to those companies that are easy to understand, have a dominant franchise, and are managed by able and trustworthy leaders. Many investors get lost in trying to predict the unpredictable, but Munger's checklist is designed to avoid that trap. The clarity of Munger's approach is something many overlook. He isn't looking for the next big speculative stock or trying to predict market trends. Instead, he asks fundamental questions. Is this business understandable? Does it have a deep moat? Are the people running it trustworthy and owner-oriented? These basics, yet profound, questions form the core of his investment philosophy. Here's a breakdown of Charlie Munger's investment checklist distilled into actionable points that apply to both investments and business decisions. So here is the first point. Stay within your circle of competence. Munger doesn't try to understand everything. Instead, he focuses on businesses he can easily grasp. We have 3 baskets for investing. Do you remember? Yes, no, and too tough to understand. Page 60 in the book. The second one is look for businesses with a strong moat. A company's competitive advantage, what Munger calls its moat, is crucial. Superior companies have moats that protect them from competitors and allow them to sustain profits over time. Page 61 in the book, here is the exact quote. Superior companies have deep moats that are continuously widened to provide enduring protection. The third point, trust the management. Munger places tremendous weight on the people running the business. Are they competent, trustworthy, and focused on owner-oriented decisions? Here is the exact quote. He especially assesses a company's management. How do they deploy cash? Do they allocate it intelligently on behalf of the owners? Fourth, be wary of complex or speculative investments. Munger steers clear of industries like technology or pharmaceuticals, which are difficult to understand and often speculative. He also avoids heavily promoted IPOs and other deals that seem too good to be true. The exact quote on page 60, pharmaceuticals and technology, for example, go straight to the too tough to understand basket. But remember, this assessment is highly subjective. Munger's investment strategy was shaped by his experiences, particularly in the mid-20th century, well before technology companies became dominant forces. What Munger found too tough to understand, particularly in sectors like technology, might be within someone else's circle of competence. For instance, Munger and Buffett largely avoided tech stocks and also Bitcoin until the mid-2010s. This highlights a key point. Your circle of competence is unique to you. Don't take any advice as a universal rule. Instead, focus on identifying what you understand deeply and where you can develop further expertise over time. This personal awareness will help you find success in areas others may shy away from. So the fifth principle, recast financial figures to reflect reality. Munger doesn't take financial statements at face value. He recasts numbers to get a true sense of the company's free cash flow, working capital, and asset values. In the book, he writes, he recasts all financial statement figures to fit his own view of reality. The sixth point, consider the risks first. Before even thinking about potential gains, Munger evaluates risk including reputational risk. All investment evaluation should begin by measuring risk, especially reputational, he says in the book on page 64. The seventh point, apply a margin of safety. Munger insists on a margin of safety to protect against downside risks, especially in unpredictable markets. In the book, the quote is, incorporate an appropriate margin of safety. Simple and clear. The eighth and final point, be patient and wait for the right opportunity. Munger is not in a rush to make investments. He waits for the right opportunities and is willing to hold onto businesses for the long term. In the book, he writes, resist the natural human bias to act. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, never interrupt it unnecessarily. Page 65 in the book if you want to read it. Charlie Munger's checklist isn't just for investing in stocks. It can be applied to any decision-making process, especially in business. Take the time to go through these points and reflect on how they apply to your portfolio or your business. Ask yourself, question number one, are you staying within your circle of competence, or are you chasing after something that's too tough to understand? Second question, have you ensured that the businesses or ventures you are backing have a strong moat, a clear competitive advantage that sets them apart? The third one, are you evaluating the trustworthiness and competence of the leadership, or are you solely focused on short-term financial metrics? And the bonus question, what areas in your own experience could be expanded or improved upon to redefine your circle of competence over time? As you can see, Munger's investment checklist is not about finding quick wins, but about building long-term sustainable success. It's about having the discipline to say no to opportunities that don't meet your standards and the patience to wait for those that do. Munger's wisdom is timeless, and applying his checklist to your own investments and business decisions can significantly improve your outcomes. I highly recommend taking time to read Poor Charlie's Almanack and reflecting on how these principles can enhance not only your investment strategy, but your overall approach to decision making. By understanding the depth of his approach and tailoring it to your strengths and understanding, you will position yourself for long-term success. Let's jump directly into section 8, how to fail in life, avoiding the path to misery. The problem here is it's all about the obsession with success principles. Today, it seems like everyone is looking for the next secret to success. Social media is flooded with motivational posts, success principles, and formulas claiming to be the key to personal and professional achievement. But as Charlie Munger wisely pointed out in his famous 1986 Harvard commencement speech, there is a better way to approach this. Instead of constantly searching for what to do, focus on what not to do. Munger, always a fan of inversion, teaches that avoiding failure is just as important, if not more important, than actively pursuing success. Let's be honest, most people get caught up in trying to do more, learning more skills, adopting more strategies, posting more, commenting more, adding more to their to-do list. But as Bruce Lee famously said, it is not about the daily increase, but the daily decrease. hack away at the unessentials. Both Charlie Munger and Bruce Lee emphasize the importance of eliminating the habits, thoughts, and actions that hold you back. This is particularly relevant for organizations that are often bogged down by unnecessary processes or misguided beliefs. The key is in streamlining and focusing on what truly works by cutting away what doesn't. In Munger's words, tell me where I'm going to die, so I will never go there. In this section, we will dive into Munger's humorous but sharp prescriptions for misery, guidelines that reveal how to fail in life and business. Here is the list of Charlie Munger's how to fail principles, what not to do if you want to succeed. The first one, be unreliable. The surest way to fail is by failing to keep your promises and commitments. In Munger's words, if you will only master this one habit, you will more than counterbalance the combined effect of all your virtues, howsoever great. Reliability, Munger argues, is one of the most crucial traits for success. If you want to ensure you never get ahead, make sure people can't trust you. Charlie Munger says, master this one habit and you will always play the role of the hare in the fable, except that instead of being outrun by one fine turtle, you will be outrun by hordes and hordes of mediocre turtles and even some mediocre turtles on crutches. The second way to misery is learn only from your own experience. Munger stresses that learning from the experiences of others is crucial. If you want to fail, refuse to learn vicariously, ignore the wisdom of those who came before you, and insist on making all your own mistakes. Munger jokes about people who minimize what they can learn from history and others' failures, saying it's a surefire way to stay ignorant and stuck. In Charlie Munger's words, my second prescription for misery is to learn everything you possibly can from your own experience, minimizing what you learn vicariously from the good and bad experiences of others, living and dead. The third path to misery, give up easily after failure. Life will throw curveballs and setbacks are inevitable. If you want to ensure failure, never get back up after life knocks you down. Munger encourages persistence and resilience as setbacks are part of the journey to success. Giving up at the first, second, or third hurdle guarantees failure. So in Charlie Munger's words, my third prescription to you for misery is to go down and stay down when you get your first, second, or third severe reverse in the battle of life. The fourth one, ignore the wisdom of inversion. One of Munger's favorite mental models is inversion. The idea that solving problems backwards can often yield better results than tackling them head-on. In this case, he suggests you should avoid passive thinking by constantly considering what could go wrong and how to prevent it. The biggest problems in life and business are often best solved by thinking about how to avoid disaster rather than focusing solely on success. As Charlie Munger says, invert, always invert. Many hard problems are best solved only when they are addressed backwards. The fifth one, path to misery. Indulge in envy, resentment, and also throw in some self-pity. Munger warns that these emotions are recipes for misery. Envy is particularly corrosive as it leads to a constant comparison with others. Resentment and self-pity trap you in negative thinking, making it impossible to focus on positive progress. If you want to fail, Munger says, indulge in these emotions as often as possible. Or, in Munger's words, envy, of course, joins chemicals in winning some sort of quantity prize for causing misery. If you wish to retain the contribution of envy to misery, I recommend that you never read any of the biographies of the good Christian Samuel Johnson, because his life demonstrates in an enticing way the possibility and advantage of transcending envy. To succeed, take Munger's inversion approach to heart. Rather than obsess over what new strategies to add, focus on eliminating the time wasters and habits that breed failure. Here are 3 ways you can apply this to your life and business. The first one is from Bruce Lee: hack away the unessentials. Like he advised, success is not about constantly adding more and more and even more to your life, but about removing what and who doesn't serve you. Look at your business processes, daily habits, and relationships. What's holding you back? Start trimming those elements today. Second one, learn from the mistakes of others. History is so rich with examples of success and failure. Whether it's other businesses or leaders, study their journeys and save yourself the pain of making the same mistakes. As Munger said, if I have seen a little farther than other men, it is because I stood on the shoulders of giants. And the third one, be reliable, persistent, and humble. Reliability builds trust and success over time. Even if you face setbacks, keep going. Success often comes down to outlasting your competition, not outrunning them. As Munger emphasizes, persistence and reliability can compensate for many other flaws. Here are my 3 coaching questions to wrap up that section. The first one: what are the unessentials in your life or business that are holding you back from reaching your goals? Identify the habits, processes, or distractions that are consuming your time and energy but aren't contributing to progress. How can you start trimming them away today? The second one: when was the last time you learned from someone else's mistakes or experiences? Reflect on whether you tend to repeat mistakes others have made. How can you be more intentional about seeking vicarious learning from mentors, books, or historic examples? And the third one: how do you respond to setbacks in your personal or professional life? Do you stay down after failure, or do you use it as an opportunity to grow? How can you adopt a more resilient mindset to overcome future challenges? These questions will help bring Charlie Munger's inversion principles into actionable steps for both your personal and professional growth. Munger's approach in this section is humorous but filled with practical wisdom. He teaches that success isn't always about knowing what to do, but about knowing what not to do. By focusing on avoiding the habits and mindsets that breed failure, like unreliability, envy, and quitting after setbacks, you can carve out a path to long-term success. So, as you reflect on your life and business, ask yourself, what can you eliminate to make success inevitable? And we are at the 9th and final section: get the incentives right in organizations. One of the most important lessons Charlie Munger teaches is the power of incentives in shaping behavior. As we learned in section 8, mistakes and failures often stem from the wrong actions being taken repeatedly. But the big question is, what drives these wrong actions in organizations? Munger frequently emphasizes that people act in their own self-interest, which is largely influenced by the incentives they are given. If an organization wants to change behavior and improve results, it must start by fixing its incentive structures. This one here builds directly on the lessons from Section 8, where we discussed eliminating what doesn't work. Many times, what doesn't work is the result of poorly designed incentives. Instead of directly blaming people for their actions, it's crucial to first look at structural issues, in particular, how incentives are set. For example, are sales teams being rewarded solely on short-term numbers, driving them to neglect long-term customer relationships? Are managers incentivized to grow the headcount of their departments, even if that leads to bloated bureaucracy? Munger describes how incentives can lead to poor behavior, citing examples from history, psychology, and business. Let's dive into some examples. Here is the first one, the Soviet pretend to work culture. Munger famously points out how bad incentives led to the failure of the Soviet Union's economy in the 80s of the last century. He references how employees in the Soviet Union pretended to work because the government pretended to pay them. The incentives were completely misaligned with productivity and genuine economic success. Workers had no motivation to work hard as they were not rewarded for their efforts. As Munger put it, they pretend to pay us and we pretend to work. This example highlights how important it is to ensure that incentives are directly tied to real performance and outcomes. Otherwise, people will simply game the system as the Soviet workers did. The second example is Milgram's experiment and the power of authority. Munger also highlights Milgram's famous psychological experiment where people were convinced to perform harmful actions simply because they were told to do so by an authority figure. This example is a stark reminder that people will follow incentives, including social and authority pressures, even when those incentives go against their moral compass. In organizations, if managers use authority in harmful ways, or if the incentive structures encourage unethical behavior, employees will often follow suit. Leaders need to be especially mindful of how they use authority and ensure that they set the right ethical standards alongside proper incentives. The third example, avoiding short-term bonuses at the expense of long-term growth. Munger warns against short-term bonus structures that encourage quick wins at the expense of long-term success. In one of his examples, he discusses how sales teams might be incentivized to hit quarterly sales targets, but this can lead to cutting corners, pressuring clients, or even ignoring long-term customer relationships in favor of immediate results. This leads to an unstable business with unsatisfied customers. Instead, Munger advocates for incentives that reward long-term value creation, such as rewarding sales teams for repeat business or customer satisfaction over time. These three examples illustrate how bad incentives create bad behavior and why it's critical to design organizational incentives that reward the right actions. Manger's key message is clear. If you want different results, you must align the incentives to the desired outcomes. If employees are rewarded for certain behaviors, they will continue those behaviors whether they align with the company's goals or not. As Munger says, stop the slop early by designing incentives that drive the right actions. Here are the 3 coaching questions to apply Munger's incentive principles. The first one, what incentives are currently driving the behavior of your team or organization? Are these incentives aligned with your long-term goals, or are they encouraging short-term thinking and poor decisions. How can you adjust your incentive structures to reward the behaviors you want to see? Consider how you might restructure compensation, recognition, or other benefits to align with the company's mission. The third one, what are some examples of poor incentives in your own past experiences and how did they impact outcomes? Reflect on personal experiences where incentives led to unintended consequences. What could have been done differently to avoid those outcomes? By understanding and applying Munger's insights on incentives, leaders can reshape their organizations for sustainable success. Remember, get the incentives right and the right behaviors will follow. It's always amazing how time flies when you have fun, and we are in the final part with the key takeaways. And in this final section, we will summarize the core lessons from Charlie Munger's Poor Charlie Almanack and discuss how you can apply them in real life. These takeaways distill the 9 key principles we have explored, helping you understand why Munger's wisdom is so timeless and valuable for both business and personal growth. The first principle is inversion thinking, problem solving, and decision making. Munger's lesson to invert, always invert, reminds us that sometimes the best way to solve problems is to think backward. Whether you are a VC or an entrepreneur, focusing on what could go wrong helps avoid pitfalls and stress test strategies. This principle can also be applied to life. Identify what you need to avoid to reach your goals. The second one, mental models, multidisciplinary mindset. Munger's lattice work of mental models teaches us the importance of integrating knowledge from various disciplines, psychology, economics, biology, and more. Successful decision-making doesn't happen in silos. It requires a broad understanding of how different systems interact. This mindset helps you see connections others miss, which is a crucial skill in both investing and business leadership. The third one, ego and envy, the pitfalls of misguided emotions. Ego and envy are destructive forces in business and life. Munger warns to avoid letting these emotions drive your decision-making. For investors, this means resisting the herd mentality. For entrepreneurs, it's about staying focused on the mission, not external validation. Cultivating a stoic mindset helps you keep your focus on long-term success, avoiding the traps of fleeting emotions. Number 4, the power of compound interest. Munger reminds us that small, consistent improvements over time, whether in business, investing, or personal development, lead to exponential growth. Just as compound interest is the key to financial success, incremental gains in knowledge, processes, and relationships create lasting impact. For VCs and entrepreneurs, it's crucial to back companies with leaders who are lifelong learners and adaptable to change. Number 5, biases and cognitive fallacies. Recognizing and mitigating cognitive biases is essential for sound decision-making. Whether it's confirmation bias or over-optimism, Munger stresses the need for objective analysis and checks against faulty thinking. VCs and entrepreneurs should establish processes that challenge assumptions and prevent emotional or biased decisions from derailing success. Number 6 is the importance of character and culture. For long-term success, both investors and entrepreneurs must prioritize integrity and strong values. Munger and Buffett consistently back founders with good character, knowing that culture drives performance. Building a company culture aligned with long-term goals and ethical principles reduces friction and enhances innovation. Number 7, Munger's investment checklist is a practical guide for decision-making, focusing on simplicity, trustworthiness, and sustainable competitive advantages. This highly subjective approach emphasizes that each person must define their own circle of competence. What's too complex for one person might be straightforward for someone else. Apply this checklist not only to investments, but to all critical business decisions. Number 8 was the funny part, how to fail in life, avoiding common pitfalls. In his famous Harvard commencement speech, Munger shared the inversion approach to success: figure out first what not to do. Avoid unreliability, envy, and self-pity. Like Bruce Lee's famous motto, hack away at the unessentials. Eliminating time wasters and harmful habits will lead to more effective outcomes in both business and life. And the final one, get the incentive structure right in an organization. Munger's deep understanding of human psychology shows that people act according to incentives. If you want to change behavior in an organization, you need to fix the incentive structures. Reward the right actions and you will see better outcomes. For VCs and entrepreneurs, designing incentives that align with long-term goals is essential for success. These 9 takeaways offer a powerful lens for approaching both business and life. However, this is just a glimpse of the wisdom Munger provides in Poor Charlie's Almanack. The book dives much deeper into these ideas, offering more nuanced insights and lessons. If you found value in these takeaways, I highly recommend reading the book to fully explore Munger's timeless wisdom. If you're short on time, listening to this summary will give you a solid foundation, but the real value lies in digging deeper into the book itself and reflecting on how these principles apply to your life and career. So let's wrap it up. I thoroughly enjoyed reading Poor Charlie's Almanack and also preparing this podcast episode. It's packed with timeless wisdom that, in my opinion, is invaluable for investors, entrepreneurs, and anyone who wants to live a well-rounded life. There's not much I can criticize about the book itself. Munger's principles are straightforward and his no-nonsense approach is refreshing. However, it's important to remember, as I mentioned earlier in the pod, that Munger's principles and mindset were shaped during the World War II era and the Cold War. His experiences were influenced by a time when technology hadn't yet exploded the way it has today. That's why when applying any of the ideas in this book, it's crucial to consider the context in which they were formed. I would encourage you to reflect on the historical and personal context of any advice you read. It's important not to apply every idea without questioning it. Ask yourself, when did the writer form these ideas? What challenges did they face to build this mindset? What has changed in today's world and how does that apply to your own life? You might need to tweak or abandon certain principles that worked in the past but may not apply as directly in your current situation. This is especially true in business, where every circumstance is unique. It's rare that one company's success can be directly replicated in another. Studying businesses, after all, is part of the social sciences, and its variables differ widely from the more predictable outcomes in hard sciences. So if you're interested in digging deeper into Charlie Munger's wisdom, I highly recommend grabbing a copy of Poor Charlie's Almanack. We have only scratched the surface of what this book offers, and I'm sure you will find it as enlightening as I did. You can buy the book through my Amazon affiliate link in the description of the podcast. It's a great way to support the show while adding a valuable book to your own collection. Also, if you're looking for further insights, check out some of the related content I've prepared, including articles and interviews on similar topics. Keep an eye on my newsletter for special promotions or offers related to the topics we discussed today. To quickly recap, we have explored Charlie Munger's timeless wisdom in Poor Charlie's Almanack, discussing topics like inversion thinking, mental models, the power of compound interest, and much, much more. If you have been inspired by these ideas, I encourage you to get the book and dig deeper. There's so much more insight and perspective to gain. And to close this episode, a quote from Charlie Munger, as he says, "Every day go to bed smarter than when you woke up, and remember, sometimes the best way to succeed is by knowing exactly what to avoid." Thank you for joining me in this exploration of Charlie Munger's wisdom. I hope you found it insightful and applicable to your own journey. Stay tuned for my next episode, and until then, take care and keep learning.